What if I did the opposite for 48 hours? This was a question that I asked myself when I had my first job out of college. I was talking about suffering. My desk was in the fire exit. It was completely illegal. Slept under the desk, the whole 9 yards, and don't regret a minute of it. But I was a technical sales guy, outbound sales guy. So we had inside sales, outside sales. And my job was to close deals with CTOs and CEOs for multi-million-dollar data storage systems. At that point, storage area networks with fiber channel. And what I realized at one point was that all of the seasoned sales guys who were doing far better than I was doing were making phone calls between 9 and 5. Those were the office hours. And I said, well, I'm clearly not doing an effective job mimicking them. What if I did the opposite for 48 hours? It's a very recoverable experiment, right? If it doesn't work, then I can always go back to what I was doing. Doing the opposite meant making my calls between, let's just say, 6:30 and 8:30, and then 5:30 to 7:30. And it was just a hypothesis. Maybe I can get a hold of the people I need to get a hold of more effectively when the gatekeepers aren't there.
Right.
And that's exactly what happened.
Wow.
And I started booking more meetings and closing more deals than the majority of the guys in the company. And it was just from asking that question. What if I did the opposite for 48 hours? And you can apply that to many, many things. Right? Some of the others would be, well, this is one I asked in 2004. If I had a gun against my head and could only work 2 hours per week, what would I do? I know it's impossible. What would I do? And that type of ludicrous question was necessary to break my thinking patterns and stress test my own assumptions of what was possible. And you find that that is a learnable skill.
The passion I've always had for business and being an entrepreneur that transfers into the Mavs, I've always been passionate. Some people thought, it's more OCD than anything else, which I think is a great trait for an entrepreneur. When I mentioned the stamp business, I would stay up till 3, 4 in the morning, even though I had to get up and go to school, and read Lynn's Stamp News and Scott's Stamp Journals and have them all memorized and use that to give myself an edge. Even when I was in college, I'd be in the library reading business books and just looking for business biographies and just reading all I could about business. When I had Micro Solutions and I started with no money, I'd pull all-nighters in front of borrowed computers, teaching myself software and how to program.
I started business because it's so difficult to be a small business owner in China. It took me 5 months to borrow $500 and still failed. No chance. And it is, and I have no any idea about how to run a business. And when I go to register a company called Internet, the registering officer said, no, there's no such a word internet in the dictionary. How can you register an internet? So he said, you have to register another name. So I said, what's the name? He said, computer consulting firm. And I have no idea about what is computer. So my first company is Hansel Hope, computer consulting firm. It was tough, without knowing anything about technology, without knowing anything about computer. In the past 15 years, I've been working. I call myself like a blind man riding on the back of the blind tigers. Those experts riding horses, they all fell. We survived because we worry about the future. We believe the future. We change ourselves. We never completely understand.
You've got to be able to have a very clear vision of your business idea. Without it, you won't actually know where you're going. So in the year 2000, I set up Generation Telecom. And Generation Telecom was a business that supplied airtime to the rail users. I believed that I could set up and manage this business and within 2 or 3 years sell out to the major networks. Well, within 3 years, we successfully sold it to Vodafone, making millions of pounds. But without that vision at the outset, my business would not have gone the way that it did.
All my life, I have sought to understand the universe and find answers to these questions. I have been very lucky that my disability has not been a serious handicap. Indeed, It has probably given me more time than most people to pursue the quest for knowledge.
You truly adore your parents, don't you?
I love my parents just so much, mate. You know, like my mum, how'd you be? You know, I was born on her birthday, and all she ever did was just love me and prop me up and get me back out in there. And my dad, just the legend of the universe. When I was the tiniest little kid, Andrew, I'd look up at my dad and, you know, he was like larger than life. He was just like this action hero. He was everything I wanted to be. And all I've done in my life is follow in his footsteps, mimic him and try to be him. And nowadays, I just try to make him proud, mate. Yeah, I love my parents like nothing else. It's just they are everything to me, absolutely everything. And the day that my mum went was the day I lost something. Lost something really big.
I think it comes back to what I was saying earlier about, I think it's, a lot of it is mental. You know, if you want to do something and you want it that bad, you'll make sacrifices. And, you know, growing up for me as a kid, I made a lot of sacrifices that I didn't seem that they were a big deal, and I don't think of them as being a big deal right now. You know, there were Saturdays or Fridays where, you know, I'd give up going to a dance or hanging out with my friends because I had workout the next day. But those things that I gave up, you know, were things that I wanted to help me get to my goal. And there were times where I've been put in uncomfortable situations, but I've used my mental power, my mental strength to push through it. I think that's how you can look at any of the athletes in the world. I mean, Tiger, the guy has a busted knee and still comes and destroys the rest of the field. You know, that's the thing. It's like people don't make excuses. You know, some of the best athletes, or the greatest athletes in the world, do things when they're uncomfortable. You know, everybody can compete when they're feeling good, happy, excited, rested. But it's the best people who can overcome when they're tired, sore, not in the great mind, not in the best mindset. And I think mental power that the greatest athletes have can push all the pain aside. You know, and I mean, like when I was doing that Navy SEALs thing, was it easy for me to do it? No. Was it easy for me to climb over a 45-foot wall and look down? Not at all, and I'm afraid of heights. But, you know, I said to myself, I'm going to do this and no one's going to stop me. I think that's the biggest thing, is how strong you can be mentally. I think that really shows who the person is. So I think that's one thing that separates the good from the greatest.
First thing I did when I got a little money to experiment, I put all my artists back in school. The art schools that existed then didn't quite have enough for what we needed. So we set up our own art school.
Well, you were inventing a new art anyway.
Well, yes, but we were just going a little bit beyond what they were getting in the art school, where they work with the static figure. Now, we were dealing in motion, movement, and the flow of movement, the flow of things, you know, action, reaction, all of that. So we had to set up our own school. And out of that school had come the artists that now make up my staff here, and more than that, the artists that make up most all of the cartoon outfits in Hollywood. Were directly or indirectly out of my school.
If you're looking to instigate a change in your life, there's no better or worse time than right now. Hey, I understand. Change is scary. With the status quo, you know what you've got. If you shake things up, there's no telling what you might end up with. But two other things are true about change. One, it's absolutely necessary for personal growth, and two, it's gonna happen. Either you can pick the time to instigate the change you want, or the change in the time will pick you. So if you happen to be one of those people who's standing on the sidelines of your dreams, waiting for that perfect moment, if you want to make that change but you just don't know if you're ready, this life lesson is for you. It's time to stop digging your potatoes and jump.
I don't get scared easy. When I may be doing half-full in training, but when I go on that track, it's like I transform. The confidence I have when I'm out there is different. No matter how far you think you're ahead of me, I'm going to catch you. That's my mentality that I go out there with. I'm never scared of anything, never scared of anyone. It's all about business when I go out there, and everything comes together when I'm on the track.